Hello guys and welcome back to Big Brother, and today we have got nominations to talk about and a prank that went a little bit too far. But either way, we've got a lot to talk about and I am super excited, so make sure to tune in and let's get into discussing this, shall we? Now, nominations for week 4 we're on now were actually very interesting. A lot of new names started to crop up. We had 3 people who had immunity: Farida, Emily and Caroline. And this is Caroline's last week of immunity before she is up for nomination once again. I personally don't want her to go home just because I feel like she's bringing so much chaos to the house and she's a villain to root for, but equally, I don't know, British public's gonna British public at the end of the day. Anyway, Caroline started off with voting Tasia and Fishola. Tasia because she feels like Tasia is fake with her feelings and she's also impressionable. And I was like, what am I not seeing in the house that she's impressionable? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not seeing that, but apparently other people are. Faishola was apparently the leader of her clique, and Caroline feels like she isolates her quite a lot. So I have to say, I'm not surprised about those comments. I do feel like they just don't want to hang out with her, and that's absolutely fair and valid. Sometimes you don't want to hang out with them. And is it creating a toxic atmosphere? Again, I don't know. I'm not in the house. If that's how Caroline feels, that's how she feels. Do you know what I mean? Emily was up next, and Emily voted for Tasia and for Marcus. Tasia because apparently effort has not been made, and therefore she doesn't really know who Tasia is. Tasia doesn't really know who she is. But then again, I have to also mention the fact that Emily did come in immediately and start saying like, oh, Tasia, you're impressionable, you're this, you're that, and coming out with all these opinions about Tasia before she actually got to know Tasia. So again, I feel like that was a little bit of a sticking point. And then with Marcus, the input has been taken very poorly from her, and Marcus has kind of let public perceptions influence his behavior in the house. And I do agree to an extent that has happened, and obviously it shouldn't have happened, but I guess it's shown Marcus in a different light for people. Similarly, Cameron K also voted for Marcus for a similar reason. And then with Nancy, obviously the whole gloves are off attitude that she had after the eviction of Sam was a little bit toxic. He felt like she was kind of being like, oh, now it's time to really do XYZ. And I was just a bit like, oh, okay, fair enough. If Cameron feels like that, he feels like that. Do you know what I mean? Richard was up next, and I felt like his reasons were poor, but then he said like a couple of things and I was like, do you know what, actually, now that you've said that, it's now making me think a little bit more. He voted for Feshola and for Zila. Feshola because apparently she uses the word Jesus liberally and in the use of like a swear word, and that offends him and his Christianity. And I was like, oh, bore off, mate, like come on, I do that all the time as well. But then when he said the next point about it seems interesting that she gets offended by the use of certain words, but when other people get offended by certain words, she doesn't have the same understanding or the same tolerance, I guess. And I was like, that is a very interesting point. And I didn't actually think about that. It's almost like she is allowed to be offended by what people say to her, but when she says stuff that offends other people, it's almost like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I don't know whether Richard has raised this with her, but it did bring up a very interesting point. And with Zila, obviously the whole betrayal thing, I think he's just still stuck on that. And he doesn't really want to nominate anybody else. He wants to nominate Caroline and get her out of the house, but he can't. So he has to vote for Zila, do you know what I mean? Up next, we had Elsa voting for Zila and for Tate. Again, Zila's reason was like, he makes digs about height, about her height, and she doesn't appreciate that. And I was a bit like, are we being serious? Like, what's going on here? And then with Tate, the face-to-face nominations were bullshit, and he hasn't really gotten to know Tasia much more since. I'm actually surprised that Elsa and Tasia are as close as they are. I didn't expect that from them, but it's nice to see that they are getting on. Jenny voted for Tate and for Nancy. Tate because apparently he sits on the fence a lot, and also Nancy because she's boring and she'd be the least sad to see her go, which at the end of the day, absolutely fair and valid nomination reason. Faishola was up next, and she voted for Tate and for Richard. Tate because she feels like he sits on the fence a lot. And with Richard, there's just surface level convo. They can't really seem to get a conversation going that isn't jokey or doesn't really have any substance to it, which again, fair and valid. Nancy was up next, and Nancy voted for Jenny and for Tasia. Jenny because obviously the conversations that happened that Sam witnessed in the secret room came out, and she obviously found out about that, and she feels like her intuition about Jenny was right the entire time. And with Tasia, apparently Tasia is very opinionated, but her opinions need to be approved by Faishola and Zila first. And again, I haven't seen much evidence of that, but I can understand why people would think that, because she does hang around them a lot, and I feel like her behaviour is sometimes influenced a little bit by how they behave as well. But again, I don't know how much is just her or how much is being influenced by the actions of others. Do you understand what I mean? Like, I don't know her well enough to know the difference. So it is a little bit tricky to be able to make those snap judgments. Farida voted for Tasia and for Elsa. Tasia because she hasn't really gotten to know Farida at all, and absolutely fair and valid. Apparently Farida asked her to come help empty her suitcase, and Tasia didn't want to do that, so I don't know. What do you do in that situation at the end of the day? And then with Elsa, I don't really know what she was trying to get at, but she was basically like, Elsa isn't really showing her true self. She's telling me that she's hilarious. She's telling me that she's funny, but like, I ain't seen that yet. So I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. Are you saying that she's a game player? I don't really get where you're coming from with that, Farida. Marcus voted for Nancy and for Sam for actually decent reasons. Apparently Nancy twerks a lot, and that's a valid excuse. And with Sam, apparently he's just loud at night time. So, you know what? Again, fair and valid. Tate voted for Jenny and for Faishola. Jenny because of what Sam had heard about Jenny slagging off Nancy, and that wasn't particularly nice. And then with Faishola, there was a dodgy reaction to the whole Melsa situation. When he walked into the bathroom, he was sort of like, oh, do you guys like not want to create a hostile atmosphere for Marcus if he walks in? And she kind of shot him a look of like, what? And I think he was talking about like how if Marcus walked into that, he might have been pounced on by people, and like, I don't know. I was kind of a bit like, Tate, what are we talking about here? But sure, vote Faishola, whatever. And then Tasia voted for Tate and for Nancy. Tate because his combos just aren't stimulating. Nancy because she's just clicked with Nancy the least. Absolutely fair and valid. It is what it is at the end of the day. Zila was up next. Zila voted for Tate because he doesn't know where he stands with Tate. Again, fair and valid. And then with Marcus, he feels like Marcus's pride gets in the way of his actions. I don't really know. Again, sometimes I was listening to the reasons and I was kind of drifting off because I was like, what are you actually talking about? You're waffling. You're waffling, bestie. You're absolutely waffling. Just say you don't like him. Just say you don't like, I don't like this individual. You don't have to give like, oh, his pride's getting in the way. Just say you don't like him. It's as easy as that. And then finally, Sam voted for Faishola and for Jenny. Faishola because he feels like her reaction to his return was fake, considering she wasn't really talking about how much she missed him when he was away, but as soon as he came back, suddenly it was like, oh, Sam, I've missed you so much, oh, etc., etc., and sort of has clung to him a little bit. So, again, fair. And then with Jenny, obviously just the whole Nancy situation. So, yeah, fair and valid. So, by the end of nominations, Nancy, Faishola, Tasia and Tate are all up for eviction this week, and there's no signs it's a double, but if it is, I'm really hoping that Tate and Faishola go home. So there was a house meeting to have, and I was actually very disappointed by what was said in it. I think the issue is the new people have come in, Farida and Emily this is, and they've started to spout information about the outside world, and it's upset people. It's rocked people's worldviews. They don't really know where they stand. I mean, Caroline was getting upset because she's been told that she's being portrayed as the villain. Bestie, you are the villain. Let's not be acting like we don't know that. Come on. Come on. Seriously. Anyway, it actually took Caroline to be like, hey, let's not talk about the outside world anymore, please, because it's damaging people's view, etc., and it's not helping people, etc. I'm glad that they've cleared this up. I think it needed to be said. It should have been said by Big Brother, but hey, listen, we've had this conversation, and listen, Big Brother gonna Big Brother, but it's disappointing at the end of the day. It is disappointing. This isn't Love Island. I don't want to know the outside opinions if I'm in the house. Do you know what I mean? I'm just there living, and I don't want that to then influence people's behaviour. Do you know what I mean? Because then it becomes more fake. But either way, they've had the conversation now. Hopefully it's out in the open and it's all done. But at this rate, who knows? Well, we have another rule break, guys, and this one was actually not as bad as some of the other ones this series, but this is the final straw. Big Brother has made it very, very clear. If there are any more people that mention nominations at any point, done. Dunzo, dunzo. You're getting punished more severely than just being chucked in a jail cell. And if I'm being 100% honest, I mean, we're past the point of talking about nominations and rule breaks, you know what I mean? I feel like we need to have more strict rules from like week 2. The first time it happened should be the warning. Every other time after that should be severe punishment. You should lose your right to nominate. You should be put up for nomination if it happens again. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. It's just ridiculous at this point. Put up for eviction, not nomination. You know what I mean? Elsa was having a conversation in the kitchen with Nancy and Caroline. And Caroline was talking about how Richard has put on a little bit of weight in the house. And obviously that didn't go down well. And then about how he's kind of recluse and he's not really interacting with people and joining in with the group and things like that. But yeah, and then I think Elsa just was like, yeah, but I felt bad if I nominated him for that reason, so I didn't. And Caroline was like, shut up, shush. And I was like, watching Caroline try and stop her from talking was so much funnier than I expected it to be. She was like, zip it. It was really funny. But she then got outed to everybody. Unfortunately, Richard had to hear the comment about the way, and I thought, wow, that's not fair of Big Brother, because that had nothing to do with the actual nominations comment. But I mean, whatever. Anyway, I personally felt that Elsa should have been punished more severely. That's all I'm saying. Hey, that's just my opinion. She shouldn't have been made to sit outside. And if it was, there should have been a rain machine on her. That's all I'm saying. Sauce, but we need to have more severe punishments. If there was a rain machine on that jail, I think I could have been like, yeah, fair. That is a good punishment. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really feeling like Elsa. Again, I feel like now that she knows that she's popular potentially on the outside, I think she's almost playing up a little bit more to the cameras. I don't know. I've still yet to see concrete evidence of this, but I'm definitely noticing a lot more of her personality coming out, if you see what I mean. And now it's time to talk about the I don't even know how to describe it. The prank, I guess, that offended people. Listen, in the Big Brother house, it's boring, right? There's not really much to do. So when Jenny and Nancy were like, hey, let's pretend that we hate each other and we just have an argument over dinner. Let's just have an argument and do it. And I was like, that is a brilliant idea. That is a fantastic idea. Not only is it going to be entertaining, but I'm here for this. I'm absolutely here for this. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's do it. And they did it. And it was like a full-on like shouting match, and I was really impressed. Jenny was given it away by the fact that she couldn't get through without laughing, but Nancy, little actress, oh my goodness. Oh, she had to be carried out to the back garden. I was very impressed with the commitment. And I thought it was incredibly funny. Oh, God. And then this is where it gets difficult. Because Elsa obviously had a particularly bad reaction to this. Clearly, there is trauma there. That shouting does not bode well with her. The fact that people were about to fight with each other, again, was triggering towards her. And I completely understand that, okay? I completely understand it. It's a very, very hard line to ride between, do you, like, sort of support someone's trauma, or do you just be like, it was a joke, come on? And that's the sort of battle that I was having. I was like, oh, clearly it was just a joke. And I will say, actually, I give Elsa 1,000 props for the fact that she dealt with this incredibly adult. When they came to apologise and were like, hey, we didn't know that you had XYZ trauma, she was like, how were you meant to know? That this is not your fault, okay? This is a thing that I have to deal with. And I felt like that was incredibly grown up. It was a very adult response to the situation. She wasn't like, oh, well, you should have asked, like, etc. Like, you just shouldn't have done it. She was like, listen, you doing it, you go for it. But like, obviously, my traumas are my traumas, and you weren't to know that. So fair and valid. And then we get to Faishola and Zila, who, the more I watch of this show, the more I think that I just don't actually vibe with them, and I would actually find them insufferable if in person. I don't know that, obviously. I don't know these people. I'm seeing 45 minutes of a day. But when every single day there's something that is like, oh, that's not funny to me, when it is obviously quite funny. Do you know what I mean? It's quite funny to watch people, like, pretend to have a fight in the house just for the bants. Do you know what I mean? It is funny. And if I was in the house, I'd be like, the drama. Oh, get me my popcorn. Whereas Michelle was like, it's just not my kind of humour. It's just not funny. It's just not my kind of humour. And I was just like, oh, bestie, do you really want to be the stick in the mud? Do you really want to be... You've just been nominated, and you want to be the stick in the mud for what is one of the most entertaining parts of the series so far. The fact that Jenny and Nancy hate each other, and they came together to be like, hey, let's have a fake argument and really rile the house up. I was like, yes, let's go. And then we got Zila and Faishola, who I've never seen a more sort of human embodiment of the friend that's too woke meme. It's just funny to me. And, like, I really want to like them because I do genuinely believe they are lovely, lovely people. But every episode, they just make me go, oh, it's like you can't have fun around them. Do you know what I mean? And I hate being like that because I sound like fucking Caroline. Okay? I hate it. I hate the fact that they've made me think like Carolyn. Fuck's sake. Oh, so jarring. But anyway, that is it for today. It's a little bit of a shorter one, but thank you guys for watching. Oh, God. Whatever. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one, whenever that may be. But until then, make sure to keep on ranting, and I'll see you guys later. Bye now. See ya.